Much bliss and many blessings, soul family. I love you all. I hope everyone's doing wonderful today. This is the third video speaking about the Antahkarana, which is the inner tool of our mind, the individual mind. And I'm going to go into 15th tattva within non-dual Shaiva Tantra, which is Ahankāra, or identity maker, or ego. Okay. The Ahankāra is the part of the mind that identifies what is me and mine. It appropriates certain things and experiences, assimilating them into its constructed sense of reality. Simply put, it is what you think you are. So it is the ego that declares, I am fat, I am thin, I am clever, I am stupid, I am independent, I am a victim, and every other I statement. Ego literally means I am in Latin. The aggregation of all these thoughts constitutes the egoic identity. So the ego is nothing more than a raft of self-images bound together by the power of your belief in them. The egoic identity is a fictitious construct constituting primarily the self-images that persist because they are believed and attached to. Each such self-image is based in a particular moment or moments of past experiences that generated a mental construct, a story, that was taken as a static reality. For example, the moment when you're praised or condemned for some aspect of your being, and by buying that story, you acquired a self-image to add to this forming ego that became the static reality. But the ego is essentially a fiction, because all that really exists is the flux of phenomena in each present moment. But it seems very real because you believe in it. You believe in that raft of self-images, and belief shapes experience of reality. Ego, then, to define it very precisely, is a persistent contraction of awareness in the form of a collection of self-images that cause suffering through artificial self-limitation. Since it is a part of the inherent dynamism of consciousness to pulsate continually through cycles of expansion and contraction, whenever we get stuck in one or the other, we lose alignment and experience suffering. The ego should be a fluid entity, but instead becomes a static prison. Many spiritual traditions view the ego as an enemy on the spiritual path because its voice seems opposite to the divine voice, the voice of our innermost self. However, in the tantric tradition, an enemy is simply an ally vowed in the wrong way. Thus, the ego is not to be annihilated in tantric yoga, but rather purified and infinitely expanded until it simply melts into all that is. Since the ego simply means what you think you are, expanding it means expanding your sense of self, including more and more reality in your self-definition. Ultimately, when the ego expands infinitely, you experience all things in yourself and yourself in all things. There are no more boundaries to selfhood. You have acquired an all-encompassing I. When you experience all beings as a part of yourself, you naturally act with compassion and wisdom. This is the state of Purnaham Vimarsha, which can be translated several ways: the perfect I consciousness, or the awareness I am full and complete and whole, or the awareness the real I encompasses everything. It is the state of complete all-inclusive expansion. Just as the mass of any object accelerated to the speed of light increases to infinity, in the same way, when the ego reaches its state of complete expansion, it merges into the ocean of consciousness. Obviously, there's a pitfall in this particular strategy. You expand your ego to become very large, but not infinite. You may find that become a problem if you get stuck there. Okay, I've made some videos in the past talking about this. How, people saying you got to kill the ego, and I'm like, in this realm, you can't kill the ego. You can have these like experiences of where you're not like becoming egotistic or something like that, but in order to have an individual experience, you got to have the ego there. Okay, and this is from Tattva Shuddhi. Aham is I, and Ahankāra is ego, or that which experiences I-ness, unified existence, and unified at all levels and unity at all levels is torn asunder at the birth of the ego, and one perceives its separation from the rest of creation. Within ego is contained the germ of individuality, and thus a process of identification and attachment to objects and persons ensues. Ahamkara pervades each and every pore of your being. Its manifestation is extremely subtle, and the web it spins so ensnaring that one remains bound in its clutches life after life. Ahamkara, or ego, forms the nucleus of existence within an individual. It is only on account of the ego that you relate to things around you. If there was no ego, you would be just like a plant or vegetable, having no knowledge of your existence. This is the paradox of creation, that on the one hand, ego binds you to the plane of objective experience, and on the other, it exists as the nucleus which has to be exploded to awaken unified existence. In the conscious state, or jagrat, waking state, ego operates through the gross body, the senses, and thinking mind. In the subconscious state, or swapna, dream state, the ego operates through the astral body and dream. When you're in a deep sleep, shashupti, the ego retires into a seed state in the causal body, but in meditation, it is in the form of inner awareness. Ahamkara is so deeply embedded that it even remains through the stages of savikalpa samadhi. The functions of ahamkara are affected by the three qualities of sattva, rajas, and tamas. Sattvic ahamkara is responsible for the notion that I am and acts as a catalyst in the process of self-realization. Ahamkara stirs up samskars or latent impressions from the subconscious mind, but under the influence of sattva or balance, it temporarily withdraws the function. Rajasic ahamkara is the dynamic force which kindles I-ness in the individual, causing intense activity and restlessness. Ultimately, it leads to dispassion of thoughts and action. Tamasic ahamkara identifies the painful and negative samskaras, thus causing doubt, apprehension, fear, and procrastination. Ahamkara can be considered the source of both limitation and liberation of the jiva, or individual soul. Although it stays with one a long time on one's life journey, through sadhana one can gradually able to refine its negative forces. By the practice of tattva shuddhi, we become more aware of the subtlety of ego, thus making it easier to disidentify with its lower functions. Okay, that one is for Ahamkara, or the ego, the I creator. I love you guys. I'll be right back in just a minute with the other two compartments of the Antahkarana. Much bliss and many blessings. Love you guys.